Do you want to know what the questions are like in the home study part of the process of becoming a foster parent? Well, in this episode, we're going to talk all about the questions that they ask you. My name is Brian Woodruff. I'm a foster and adoptive parent. I'm the creator of fostercareaction.com. I'm an author of the book, You Think You Want to Be a Foster Parent. In the first video about the home study, we talked about all of the paperwork and fingerprints and the house inspection and all those things about the home study process. In this section, in this video, we're going to talk about the actual questions that are asked during the home study. So let me start by talking about how this is done. So typically it's not done in one sitting. Every county, every agency does this a little bit differently. But basically, the person's going to ask you a question, and then as you answer the question, they're going to write down everything that you say to that question. So all of the questions that they ask are all give an example of, or it's not yes or no. So understand that this is the long process. So for Katie and I, it was 4 3-hour interviews. A couple of them were done with us together, and a couple of them were done us individually. So this is a long process. It doesn't take that long for everybody, but I'm just telling you that this is a long process. Second piece of the entire part of becoming a foster parent, this is probably the most invasive part of becoming a foster parent. Many people get uncomfortable during this part of the process. And part of the reason is they ask personal questions. But part of the reason is you're worried about their answers. And so let me take that second statement and take that off the table. So many people view the home study as a pass or fail. This is so not a pass or fail. This is more about understanding who you are, why you're doing this, and where you're going to need help. But I promise the questions feel like they're pass or fail. So let me give you some examples, and let me just help you understand why people say this can be uncomfortable. So one of the questions that they ask is, when was the first time you were sexually active? So you say, well, why do they need to know that? Well, there's lots of reasons why they know that. But let me tell you how my brain went when they asked me this question. My brain went, I can't tell them 16 because why would they give a foster child to me when I had sex at 16? And 24 is unbelievable because I had my first child at 22. The answer is the answer. So if you had sex at 16, if you had sex at 14, if you didn't have sex until you were 30, or you've never had sex, that's the answer. Don't worry about if you feel like it makes you look good or doesn't make you look good. That's not what this is about. This is about just telling them the truth. Now they asked my wife that same question. Now my wife was known to many as the good Catholic girl. And so this was very uncomfortable for her because she had to talk about that she wasn't really the good Catholic girl that she made the rest of the world think she was. And she's a great person, but she was also a teenager. She also did things that teenagers do. And so she had to answer the question that way. And it was embarrassing for her. It felt intrusive to her. And so just understand that this part of the process is going to feel that way. So let me give you another example. So another question that they're going to ask you is, where do you get parenting advice? So we have a friend of ours that are a newly married couple that became foster parents. And so when they asked this question, the wife said that she would read books about it and that she would talk to people that she knows that have children. She would talk to her parents to ask advice, parenting advice, and so on. And so that seems to me like that sounds like a really great answer and super answer. And so they asked the same question of her husband. And her husband said, well, I would just Google it. Now, that seems sort of funny. like you're going to Google parenting advice, but that's how he would get parenting advice. And so that's the right answer. Now, just so you know, they are licensed foster parents now. So obviously, Googling parenting advice is a legal answer. I do this, I make fun of this to help you understand that this feels like a pass fail, but I promise it's not. It's more to get to know you, but understand they're going to ask lots and lots and lots of questions. So, what are the questions? So, I promise you the county and the agencies aren't going to like the fact that I'm not going to give you all of them, but I'm going to give you the gist of where they're going. And they're not going to like it because part of this is meant to be a surprise. Now, I can tell you I can't remember them all. So guess what? I'm going to go back to my book because I have them printed in my book. So, the first assessment questions are all about you. So your name, your family, how many brothers and sisters you have, are your parents still alive? What is your relationship like with your parents? What was discipline like? Describe your sexual development. What is your employment? Lots of things about that. So lots and lots and lots of questions about who you are, where you came from, things of that nature. And again, it's gonna get in depth. I promise if you don't give them enough information, they're gonna ask a follow-up question to get the information that they need. So understand, even if you don't give them all the information that they're looking for, they'll just simply ask a follow-up question to probe in the area that they're really looking for. So question number 1, if that's not fun enough. Question number 2, give an example of how you deal with grief or loss. How flexible are you? Do you have a backup plan? How do you act when you're confronted with an impossible task? How do you handle, what do you like when you get stressed? And again, all of these questions are around how do you process things? How do you deal with stuff like that? And so you're going to have to give real life examples for all of these things that they're going to ask. And so again, this is why it takes so long, because each answer is maybe a minute or 2 long. The next is, how do you deal with delayed gratification? Describe a time when you had no control. How did you deal with that? Some things of that nature. Discuss a time when you felt frustrated or rejected. How did you manage that conflict? How do you manage your feelings, and how do you express your feelings? And again, these are all examples. The 4th is describe your strengths, describe your weaknesses. Who do you rely on for support? How long have you known that person? What is the relationship between you and that person? So again, it's all about how do you network? How do you deal with, when you're feeling frustrated? Number 5, discuss boundary issues. Who do you discuss difficult situations with? Have you ever used community resources? How flexible are you to new ideas? How do you deal with people who have completely different ideology than you? So they may ask, what are your political views? And again, they don't care if you're Republican, Democrat, or Independent. It's more about how do you deal with this stuff? And I know what you're thinking probably right now. What does this have to do with foster care? It has way more to do with foster care than you would imagine, because you're going to be put in impossible situations. You're going to deal with conflict. You're going to deal with people that look at the situation differently than you. These are all things that you're going to have to deal with. And understand, even if you are not good at this, that's just an area that they know that they're going to need to help you with. Again, don't view this as a negative. View this as, where am I going to need the help? 6, describe a time that you had to have empathy for someone. How would you describe your ability to interpret or verbalize or non-verbalize behavior of other people? How do you verbalize your feelings with others? Describe a time when you had to put yourself in somebody else's shoe. Again, you probably can imagine that in foster care, you're going to have to do all those things. And so again, these are questions asking, how are you going to handle this? What is your motivation for becoming a foster parent? Describe what you believe foster care is. What do you think foster care or adoption will look like? How involved are you with foster care or adoption work now? How many children are you interested in fostering or adopting? And what kind of children are you thinking about bringing into your home? Age, race, sex, so on. So again, all very reasonable questions, but you're going to have to answer all these. Describe a time when you felt entitled. Describe how you're feeling about foster parenting another child. What do you feel your responsibilities to the bio parent will be with the child that you have in care? Again, these are all things that you're going to deal with. And you've probably never thought about it, but you're going to have to talk about each one of those things. Describe an example of a long-term relationship that you have kept. Describe a time when you put yourself first in front of your children. That one's hard. I mean, think about that. That's really being vulnerable. What do you feel a parent role in a child's life is, and how long does that last? Again, this is getting into parenting styles, some of your beliefs and disbeliefs. Describe your parenting style. Describe your discipline style. Where do you go for parenting advice? Remember, I told you that one. What about parenting gives you the greatest satisfaction? Do you parent all your children the same? So again, lots and lots and lots of questions around all these things. And it is so easy, so easy to feel like that this is a pass or fail. And I promise it's not. It is not pass or fail. The other reason why this is really important for them to do is you are going to fill out a form that has probably 100 different types of children. Sexually abused, drug addicted, behavior issues, and you are going to have to fill out that form of what you are willing and unwilling to take. And I will tell you that that feels weird too, because you're going to say, nope, if they, you might say, if they were sexually abused, I don't want a sexually abused child in my home. And that's understandable, and that's your right, but you're going to fill out this form, and you may feel judged. But part of what they're going to do through all that questions is help you fill that out. Because as they read this, you may say that you're willing to take a certain type of child that your answers would say differently. And they may help coach you and say, I'm not sure that you're ready for this type of child. You can change it. You can change your criteria at any time. But understand, you're going to fill out this form. And part of this questionnaire is going to help them lead you and guide you through that process. The final part of the process of the home study is they're going to take the answers to all your questions. They're going to take your background check, your fingerprints, your application. They're going to take all of that. They're going to bundle it up in a nice, neat package the way the state wants to receive it. They're going to send it to the state. The state's going to review it. And ultimately, the state grants you your foster care license. So ultimately, the state is the one that says, yes, you can be a foster parent, or no, you can't be a foster parent. Understand that your county or your agency, before they send it to the state, are going to be able to tell you, yes, this is going to be approved, or no, it's not, because they know what all the criteria is. They deal with this all the time. They know what the state is looking for, and they're going to help you through that, through the entire process. They're going to talk about that with you. So That's the home study process. Very long. So if you want to know how long does this whole thing take, well, it's really up to you. Katie and I did it in 2 months, I think, about from start to finish. But we did this while we were taking pre-placement classes. So we started pre-placement classes in January, and we were licensed in the middle of May. And so, but we did a lot of this stuff simultaneously. So we were taking pre-placement classes on Saturdays, and then during the week we were being interviewed. And so you can do all this stuff simultaneously if you're trying to get it done quicker, but it is a process. So I tell everybody the whole process of becoming a foster parent, typically 6 months is an average. Some people get it done quicker. We got it done obviously in 5. Some people get it done longer. I know of people that have taken a year to finish this process. So 6 months is an average time to get this process done. And so just sort of count on 6 months. So if you find this information helpful and you want more information about this, please subscribe. I am constantly adding new videos to talk about all of the obstacles and all the difficulties that foster parents endure during the journey of being a foster parent. I hope you enjoyed this and hope to see you on the next video.